Hold on. Let me go and get a drink.
All right, I already hit live. Well, we're live, but Lewis had to go get a drink. I already got my drink.
Yeah, let me go get a drink.
I've got my yerba mate here. So this is the enhanced sparkling water. So it's kind of like those yerba mates you see. I don't know. It depends on where you live. They're pretty popular here in the U.S. But this is like a yerba mate with no sugar in it. It's like a sparkling water. Luke's vice is Luke drinks a little too much caffeine. But
what are you drinking there?
What's that?
What are you drinking?
It's a sparkling water yerba mate.
All right.
You ever have yerba mate?
No, I never heard of it before.
Yeah, you should try it sometime. It's like a tea. It's pretty good. It's got it gets you good and jacked.
Nice. Just what you need on a Saturday. Say that again?
I was telling the viewers how my vice is that I drink a little too much caffeine. I apologize. I'm getting a little stuffy in my nose. I've been using the sauna a couple days in a row, and I think I'm going to probably retrace another layer of sinus infection within a month or two.
Yeah. I
can usually feel energy building in certain areas of the body, usually my sinuses and my face area when I'm going to retrace, and I don't know. Probably when my NAK flips again and I keep on the zinc for another month or two, I'm probably going to retrace another layer of infection here. So I apologize for the stuffiness.
Yeah, I've never really had a sinus problem. I've never retraced one as well.
Where do you usually retrace?
To me, it's always brain stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. I never have brain stuff. Mine's always very physical.
Yeah, well, not brain. I mean, like, stuff coming out of my brain physically or mentally.
Yeah, like mentally. Like, I've never once had like I never have like real mental or etheric retracings. It's always physical for me. It's very, yeah. It's weird how the program manifests differently in different people.
Yeah. I think that's a testament to just how unique and different every human being is.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had the question before is, well, why have I got adrenal fatigue when, I've ate the same diet as this person, that person, this and this, culture, and I'm like, you can't think like that, man. I mean,
yeah.
From the day you was conceived, you would have been having a toxin there, a toxin here. Your mom might have even fell down the stairs while she was pregnant. That's going to cause a trauma that you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
Do not ever compare yourself to other people. It's an absolute waste of time.
Right. It's also like a soul thing. People don't realize like even if the bodies are somewhat comparative as far as health, like some souls are more advanced than others. It's just the truth. Some souls are advanced and some souls are better at certain things too,
I agree. And sometimes you get, some souls want to experience something just for their own, just for their own development. I mean, I'm quite good at tuning into my soul now. There's a cool article on Dr. Wilson's website called Act as If You're a Soul. Because the soul just is patient, it's kind, doesn't get angry. It's so easy to feel it, but it's so difficult sometimes to live by that, because it means that you got to put a lot of faith in something that you haven't felt for years and years and years, But after a while, you'll feel it. It'll just get a stronger and stronger voice. It's that little voice within that no one really wants to listen to. But as soon as they go through some sort of life experience where they didn't listen to that voice, then they'll be like, I knew this was going to happen. I felt this in the first place. And like, that's the soul speaking, and if you like split up with a partner, for example, like your physical ego is going to be like, I'm so annoyed. My ego's broken down and this and this. And if you just tune into your soul's like, let's just move on. Everything's fine. Let's go and, go in the woods and go for a walk and explore this certain area of your life. And like the egos just cannot handle that sort of thinking. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. And if you're looking to tune into your soul, like I've realized, like people don't realize the soul isn't actually in your brain. Like your soul is in your chest area. I've realized. It's not. So you can't get into your head trying to contact your soul, because your thoughts aren't your soul. Your brain's not your soul. You know what I mean?
Apparently, the soul used to live in the brain, I think near the pineal gland, but something happened, so it had to move. It had to jump ship and live in the chest.
Where did you where did you read that?
On Larry's website.
Really? What article is that? I don't remember that one.
Yeah. It talks about how the souls had to move location. Now it's found near the solar plexus, but originally it was somewhere near the pineal gland.
What do you mean originally? Like on Earth, or like?
Oh, I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, at some point in history, the soul of humans resided somewhere in the brain, but something happened. I can't quite remember, and it had to be moved.
Yeah, but yeah, I've kind of talked a couple times. I've kind of like talked to my soul, and like, yeah, I realize it's not in your head. It's somewhere in your chest area.
Yeah, you can feel it in the center of your
Yeah.
chest. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
No, that's true. The more I think about it, and it comes across as a little white spark to me when I think about it. It's like white and pure. It's really cool. It's always right. In a way, it makes you realize that when you say I, you really need to like redefine that.
Yeah. One thing my soul is kind of going through is like, I don't like posting on social media as much as I used to. It just all seems so kind of pointless. Like, you post something on social media, and it's like, more often than not, it's like the ego trying to like get attention, or like, it's just not really helping anyone really at any sort of meaningful level.
Well, when you think about it from like a logical perspective, I always refer to this because I think it's such a great way of understanding things, is that like we're just not designed to. All we was designed to do was just to focus on ourselves, focus on our environment, and focus on around 30 to 50 other people. We're not designed to like have access to all this massive amounts of information and news, and we're just not designed for that. And by being on social media, all it's doing it's creating a false world for the human craving for social interaction. But because you're not actually there in flesh, you're not getting a healthy dynamic. All you're seeing is little snippets. You're not even seeing little snippets of someone's life. You're seeing snippets of a creation that they've created on the internet, which is meaningless. Often you're looking at people that you wouldn't probably speak to in the streets. So we're just so like disconnected from ourselves and our immediate environment, that it's and this is why people are so lonely. You got to ask the question: we're more connected, but we're less lonely, and we're more connected and more lonely. And it's like, well, why is that? Well, the reason is that we're not forming deep, intimate bonds with people anymore who actually give a shit about us, and you just get lower self-esteem, and then you're just in a spiral. It's really healthy for, like, I mean, I'm on Facebook a lot, I'm not going to deny that I'm not on Facebook. But I do try to, like, I've got a new phone, for example, that I use, and I find it really helpful to switch my SIM card into just a crap phone, so I'm not on Facebook. And as soon as I do that, my mind switches from thinking about the tech world to thinking about my immediate environment, my immediate friends and family, and my allotment, and what I need to get done today, and my washing, my laundry, tidying the house, like stuff that actually gives you meaning and value. It's a weird paradox, because if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have seen Dr. Wilson's website. I wouldn't have seen all the conspiracies on YouTube. So it's as if it's this kind of like, the powers that be have done a really good job at basically confusing the hell out of us by every means possible. By in every facet of what it takes to be happy and healthy, they've tried to do the opposite. and the internet in a way has kind of opened our eyes to that, and I think that's beautiful. But I think after a while you need to step away from it eventually, and get back to the truth of who we are and what we're about and what actually fulfills us. You know what I mean?
Right. One thing also me and Lewis were kind of talking about before we went live is that I recently got married, and then I think I've realized that there is a certain power in marriage. I do feel like a deeper, like etheric blending with my partner, I would say. So energetically, I think there's definitely more power in the blending when you get married. She also seems more secure energetically. That makes sense.
Like, are you talking about like getting you thinking about getting married?
No, I got married.
Did you?
Yeah, I married Sarah.
When?
About 3 weeks ago.
Cool. Was it a traditional marriage, or was it like more of a contract?
It was a traditional wedding, but it was very small. There were only like a couple people there.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, thanks. And then we had a reception. What we did is we had a small.
I thought you'd have flown me over to be a best man, man. What's going off?
What's that?
I thought you'd have flown me over to be a best man. What's happening?
I would have chosen you as my best man. I would have, but it was a small ceremony, and then there was only a couple people there because I didn't want it to be like a whole sort of traditional like giant thing. Just because it's personal preference. Like I don't like the obligation of like when you have a huge wedding and there's all this different planning and stuff, and you have the obligation of other people. I don't like having other people feeling obligated to get us wedding gifts or to help out with the planning and the cooking and everything. So we had a small ceremony, then we had a reception afterwards where like more friends and family came.
Cool. Yeah, it's an interesting one, really. I think marriage for me is, I think there's many words in the English languages that have been the definitions have been skewed quite a lot, and I think marriage is like one of them. So is love, so is so is friends, so is relationship, and I think like marriage for me is like just all it is really is coming to a decision that you are gonna be deeply committed to this person for the rest of your life. It's just it's a contract of I am going to be your other half, and you don't need a big fancy wedding to do that, and I think it's absolutely fine to question everything, question what it means to get married and what it's all about. If I ever get married, it would be, there's a marriage contract on Dr. Wilson's website, and as much as I thought it was absurd when I first read it a few years ago, now I understand the benefits of it, because marriage is about coming together with another person, like the yin and the yang, and like just you've got to be pretty compatible, man. You're going to spend like the rest of your life with someone, and you've got to be compatible. But I think one of the things that worries me a little bit is how, because Dr. Wilson's not married,
right?
But yet he talks about marriage, and he talks about all this sort of talks about marriage and dating and women and stuff. And would you be able to get as developed as you would Dr. Wilson in a marriage? The only reason I say it, because he says you get more developed in a marriage, all right, but and probably just because I've been immature about the whole situation, but whenever I've been in a relationship, I felt like my development slowed down, just because of the energy expenditure that I need to put into it. So that's the thing that really scares me at the moment, is I wouldn't want that to happen. See where I'm coming from?
Well, he does write about, it does help development in a lot of ways. In the beginning, it is more difficult on the man because the woman is less grounded and she's less healthy and less young in the beginning, especially. So it is more difficult on the man, and in the beginning, it will hinder the man's development more. But if you make that leap and you overcome that first initial hurdle and you get her to a certain point in her development, then you begin to reciprocate more of her energy, and she helps the man develop more.
What's
And
just out of
develop
interest?
What's that?
I was just out of interest. What would be your definition of development? It's an interesting question. We probably should do another podcast on it. Now we've got a little bit older.
For me, development is it's more of like a feeling. Like I know when I'm developing, it's like a forward movement. It's like forward, like energetically, it's moving forward. More energy moving downwards, and my body healing structurally in certain ways, and I can feel when my development is either slowing down or speeding up. So for me, it's more of like a personal, energetic phenomenon that I can feel is occurring. Does that make sense?
What make you feel more fuller of energy? Your energy
For me,
becomes
it's like
more
moving
full.
forward. It's like relative, and like it's like relative to like like everything's moving forward. You know what I mean?
I think for me, yeah. I think for me, it's I think it's coming to understanding that God has designed a human in a certain way that in His own image, and that means it's not just about the purity of the body's cells and cellular structure, which is obviously super important, but it's also about building integrity and these other humane things like kindness, more maturity, more compassion. You know what I mean? It's all these other aspects of a human that we don't really see as being development, when in reality it is.
Right.
And I feel like what marriage would bring to the table, what I would hopefully like marriage to bring to the table, is building strength, building energy with another person. So making your energy stronger with another person. But it's also about learning to live with another soul. I think that's really important for development, because God wants you to be, wants to love everyone really, but He wants you to be able to really get on with other souls. And I think that's important. But I also feel that, like, I think relationships are going to bring out they're going to mirror you on some levels. So, to kind of see the rough edges in you as well. That's one thing that I've noticed in my relationships in the past. That I say maybe it didn't slow down my development physically. I felt more tired, but I matured way. I learned a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like, rapidly.
Right.
About relationships, about maturity, about like putting another person first. So yeah, I mean, maybe I did develop quick. Although Dr. Wilson told me I slowed down my development when I spoke to him on the phone about this a couple of years back. So I don't know, it's an interesting question. I mean, development is the full unfolding of the human evolution. But then if that's the case, then you need to figure out, well, what is that? Because you can't really see, you don't see it walking down the street every day.
Right. I can say that for me personally, it's like, those are words like you're using to there are words you can use to describe what the process of development is and what it looks like and how it manifests itself. But if you get to a certain point, like for me personally, like development is literally just like a feeling. Like I know when I'm developing, and I know what I'm not developing, and I know what development is at a sort of etheric level. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. I'll tune into that. I know I do feel, you do feel it. I know what you mean. But I'm always scared about, maybe I don't know, I wouldn't really say I'm a perfectionist. I'm always scared of like getting into because there's been times when I've been in relationships and the universe kind of tells me, God tells me this is a bad idea. And sometimes I'll there's so many good aspects to that other person that I'll just dive in head first, and then I'll split up with the person, and it turns out, you know, that they wasn't the right person for me. So I'm always like, oh man,
Right.
what constitutes a right person for you? Maybe God doesn't want you to get married for whatever reason. I'm sure that's quite a valid thing, you know, and it's kind of deciphering, just figuring that out. At the moment, I'm definitely not there. I'm definitely, if I said to myself, am I ready for a relationship or a commitment or a marriage? Like, I'm not there at the moment for me. I've just been doing it for the past 3 years. And for me, I'm cultivating myself, which I think is really nice at the moment. I'd like to think I'd be at a position to feel different, but at the moment, I don't feel any difference there. You know?
Right. Yeah, and like I do feel like a power energetically around marriage. I think for some men, like there's definitely been a lot of masters, obviously, that chose not to get married. If you think of like Jesus was never married, you know, Dr. Wilson's never married. A lot of like the patriarchs.
Well, is there not the story of Mary Magdalene? Did he not marry her?
No, my understanding is that he did not marry her. Right. She was part of his life and they were friends. But from my understanding and my research, they did not get married or consummate. Because Jesus thought that it would hinder his work on planet Earth. And it was best not to.
Yeah, I get that feeling a little bit for myself.
Well, that could be true for you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, you know. You know what I mean? And that's true of, like I said, that's true of a lot of the masters on Earth. You know what I mean? A lot of them do choose to forego marriage because they feel it would hinder their work on Earth.
Well, but if there's an argument that marriage can increase development, can speed up development, then you're in a bit of a paradox.
Yeah, for sure. I do feel like there is, like, a lot of men, I think, in our society, like especially my age, are scared. Like they don't want to get married because they're selfish, and they don't want to pin themselves down in certain ways, or in like, you know, especially a lot of the younger people that I'm around, you know, they're quite sick. You know, and this kind of goes around with like the whole, you know, just a lot of the younger people in society, you know, that went to the public school system and they get taught certain things and how to, you know, how to act certain ways and things like that. It's just a lot of them are too selfish to get married, and a lot of them don't even really believe in the sanctity of marriage. And so for them, it's like hindered, like marriage and even like children are a burden. You know what I mean? They would rather be able to, you know, go out drinking without the responsibility of, you know, going home to their wife, or, you know, being able to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think that's really important. I think for me, I am going to start craving the responsibility of that in the future. At the moment, I feel like I am cultivating good, strong, solid foundations to be able to bring another person into my life and potentially a child.
Right.
I feel that's what's going off for me at the moment. I'd like to think that, because I would like to think that I would be married and have children.
Right.
But yeah, I've been quite traumatized by past relationships, but in many ways it has really give me a good, strong head on what I want and what I would like in another person. So in many ways, you know, we'll see what happens.
In most cases, it is important for a man, I think, to get to a certain point before marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
There's a reason why, you know, Dr. Wilson writes that, you know, most men shouldn't get married until 30.
Well, I like the Adam and Eve story. I think that works quite well for men and women. You know, God created the Garden of Eden, which basically means, you know, I am on earth, I am in everything, seek me first. And then he said, you know, I want you to go and work. So it basically means, you know, a man should go out and be all that he can be, you know, be of service and do some labor. Like, I haven't made the world perfect. I've made it in such a way that you're going to have to work a little bit, and that's what gives you meaning. And then the third thing he said is to cultivate. So once you started to like grow the seed of who you are, then cultivate that into nice gardens. That's where I feel like I'm at the moment, you know. And then further down the line, he kind of says, you know, it's not good for man to be alone.
Right.
And I think guys don't understand that too well, and kind of put things in different orders.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have like the you have to think longer term sometimes, like the patience aspect, because it is harder on the man in the beginning. You know what I mean? This was known in Eastern science,
Yeah,
you know.
a lot of people don't have like the.
Oops, now I'm in the background. I gotta.
I think it's harder on the man if you're having sex and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think I would be into the whole no sex before marriage thing now.
Right.
I think that's pretty. I think that's. I'd be pretty strong in doing that at the moment.
Yeah, I do notice things like energetically. Like I don't really see energy and stuff like that. Like some people do, like colors and stuff. But I feel like energy field around things. And I do feel a strong energy field around the marriage. Even the wedding ring itself. I noticed this before I got married. A man was wearing a wedding ring. I felt there was strong energy around the wedding ring. Which sounds strange, but it seems to be true.
It does feel powerful when I think about marriage.
Right.
But it's got to be right, and a lot of people don't understand not how to do marriage right, but how to seek out the right person in the relationship. And I think that's tricky. It's very difficult these days because there's so much toxic sludge knocking about, you know, for you to kind of find a strong, grounded woman is really difficult. Well, I found it to be quite difficult anyway.
Right.
Who are more conservative types, you know, look after themselves and, you know.
And she doesn't have to be that strong or that grounded, but she has to be willing to let you strengthen and ground her.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
She has to love you enough to accept your energy. Because as long as that's true, eventually she will become more strong and more grounded.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah. But again, you know, it's
and it will slow down your development. You know what I mean? Because just energetically, right? If she's not as grounded and not as strong as you, just energetically you being around here, it's like, you know, it's like water. You know, if you have like salt water, certain water's more salty than certain water's not as salty. And you put them together, you know, the gradient it equalizes.
Mm.
You know
so what were the main, you know, like before you got into a relationship, what were the main things that you wanted to get out of it? Was it to develop yourself further? Was it to, was it because you felt like you was a bit lonely, or?
Well, I mean, I do want to have children, so that's part of it. Definitely. I also for me, I do like the process of helping her and helping like the children heal.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I do enjoy that like stewardship, if that makes sense. And it does help development in certain ways. Maybe not as much like health-wise, especially in the beginning, but it does make you like realize certain things about yourself, and it definitely makes you be less selfish. You know what I mean?
Mm. No, that's a good point. What I found actually is that the more self-responsibility you take, the less selfish you feel. The less selfish that you feel. That makes sense.
Right.
So if like the fact that I go out and grow my food now, and I go out and I make a lot of things using nature, what God provided, and I go out foraging and my finances are in order, the more responsibility I take for my own self, the more that I really want to have responsibility for other people.
Right.
Not to have dominion over, other people, but to be able to share that response, I am really responsible for myself, and now I can like overfill this cup of responsibility into other areas of my life. I think that's really useful for guys to come to terms with, because if you're not fully responsible for yourself and you start getting into relationships out of lack of self-esteem or confidence or feeling lonely, it's always going to fail because the dynamics going to be way out of balance.
Yeah, I feel like as a man, you shouldn't get married to fill up your cup. Your cup should be overflowing, and then you can share the overflowing with a woman. And so I think it is important that a man gets at a certain point in his life. Part of that is just maturity, and part of it is also just like it's financially too. I think it was easier to get married, several decades ago, even like here in America, because it was easier for a man to provide for his family. He could go get a job at a Ford plant or something like that and make enough money basically out of high school to provide for a family. Whereas in today's society, with the way the monetary system is set up and inflation and everything, the powers that be have basically purposely made society where both sexes have to work.
Oh, yeah.
We lost your. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, sorry. Someone tried calling me.
Oh, no worries. But so in today's society, it's harder for a man to just work and not have to work that hard to provide for a family due to, I was saying, inflation and the way they've set up society with everything at this time. And so it is important, I think, also to a certain extent for a man to have enough finances so the woman doesn't have to work herself really hard, preferably. You know what I mean? That is preferable. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that a woman shouldn't work or anything like that, but it is harder in today's modern society and the way that the monetary system is set up and the tax system and everything. It is much harder for single income households to thrive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is reversing, and this will reverse. This is in the process of reversing as we go into a new monetary system at this time. And I think we're going to see a resurgence in marriage and a lot of this sort of stuff because of the things that are going on at this time.
Yeah, I can feel that as well.
Right. Just taking a step back in modern society and realizing we don't need to work this hard and that we can all thrive, and that, if we all help each other out, we don't have to work as hard as we think that we do, and just having a less burden on people too, due to regulations and taxes and stuff like that. And also the money itself, as the money itself changes, there'll be less of a burden on society, because the money is sick. The US dollar is sick and it's dying. And when it's replaced by the new systems, it'll be much easier because there won't be hidden inflation taxing us.
Bring it on, man.
That's sort of a different topic, but that's something important that's happening at this time.
Yeah, bring it on.
Right.
Shall we see if there's questions? Not many questions today.
Yeah, I was going to check out.
Any questions, people? What's this being sent?
Is it a coincidence that the more I push down, the more I'm drawn to reading Dr. Wilson's articles? No, it's not really a coincidence, It makes sense if you think about it. Because the website is truth. His website is truth, and if you're bringing more truth into the body, you want to read more about truth.
That's what I would say. The more that you do the program and you read his articles, the more you realize he's telling the truth. So if you're pushing down the truth, you're going to be giving the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simple as that, really.
I've read every article on Dr. Wilson's website like 10 times. at least.
That's pretty insane, man.
That's all I did for like. It's most of the content that I consumed for like 2 years. You know?
I don't think I've read the article. I'm going to
Yeah,
start
right.
reading these articles on economics soon. I have read them briefly, but they seem pretty interesting. In the beginning, for me, I was so ill, I couldn't even read it. I couldn't get through an article. Never mind read it all 10 times.
Yeah, I enjoy the economics articles. You know, I enjoy economics.
You don't say.
What's that?
You don't say. You enjoy economics.
Yeah.
I think you can all see that.
Economics is one of those things. It's similar to development, you guys, in that, you know, there's economic truth. So we're taught so many things are subjective in society. Economics is not subjective. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, it's economics is math. It's 1 + 1 = 2. You know what I mean? It's not subjective, and you know, certain things make better money. Money has certain properties. You know, capitalism is better for certain for certain reasons. It's just it's the truth, and so a lot of people think economics is subjective, but it's not. And if you think it's subjective, then you won't learn the truth and you won't learn the laws of economics, and then you'll never be financially successful. Because if you can learn the rules, it's just like development science. If you learn the rules of how to live your life and how to develop, you'll get healthier and stronger and wiser. If you learn how money works and you learn the truth about money and you accept the truth about money, then that gives you power over money, and then you can enjoy the success of, you know, managing your money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I really enjoy it. I think everything's got truth to it.
Right. Yeah, the truth is, some things are subjective, but many things that we think are subjective are not subjective. You know what I mean? Your favorite color is subjective. You know. You know.
Sure.
But yeah, economics is not subjective. You know, even politics. Politics is not subjective either. Certain ways of forming governments work better than other ways. That's the truth. You've been taught. If you're watching this, you might have been taught differently in school, and that certain ways work. Certain political systems or economic systems work best in certain situations. That's true to an extent, but for the most part, it's 1 + 1 = 2. You know.
That's it. And it's probably like, I mean, I haven't delved into economics as much as you have, but, you know, what I generally find, the general trend is anything that the masses promote, the opposite is probably true. And economics is probably no different. Same with politics and education.
If you want to read, I mean, if like you, Lewis, if you want to read things on economics, you should read read books on Austrian economics.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good grip on it, but
yeah,
like I was saying, like I was just highlighting the fact that, you know, even Dr. Wilson's got massive articles on economics. It's like, whoa, you know, it's really impressive that he, you know, and in many ways that's what development's all about. It's not about doing a coffee enema necessarily or eating a good diet. It's about learning the tools to become a highly integral human being, and one of them tools is, in this day and age, is to understand economics and money, you know?
Right. And it's also a soul thing. Like, I'm not a good builder, like at a soul level. Like I'm not good at like building things. Like I probably would never. I mean, if I practice enough, obviously I would be able, but I don't have a gift for like building houses. You know what I mean? I've been working with my grandfather part-time building houses, and he's like incredible at it. He doesn't even, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. To me, it's actually quite incredible to watch him. Like, you know, you're so good at something, Lewis, that like you don't even think about it, right? Like for me, like when I play guitar, like I don't even have to think about it, right? When I do the scales and, you know, even when I'm playing like fast and stuff, I don't even have to think about it, right? Like for my grandfather, it's that same way, like literally building a house from scratch. Like if you start with a plot of dirt, And it could be like many different types of houses, and it could be different types of materials. It wouldn't have to be a wood house. It could be made out of concrete, brick. It could be a 2-story, 3-story house. It could be in the woods. It could be, he might have to even use different tools than he would have used otherwise if he even had to if he had to figure some different things out because he had to use a different building material or a different tool because he didn't have access to everything he wanted. He'd still do it. You know what I mean? And for him, it's literally second nature, building a house from scratch. Like he doesn't even you watch him. It's like, oh, then we do this, then we level it, and then we do this, and then the next material goes here, and then it's here, then the triangle. You have to measure the triangle, and then you have to make sure. You know what I mean? You have to make sure it's square. And he's doing all that. He's not even literally building a complete house. It's second nature.
I suppose it's an interesting. I mean, like you say. I mean, I don't know. It's like to be fair, if I did building, I probably wouldn't be bad at it. I've got the mindset, but it doesn't mean that my soul likes to do it. My soul would hate doing it.
Right.
And I think you've got to ask the question. Sometimes it's I don't know. I'm a good artist.
Right.
And I think a little bit of that's hereditary, genetics. But I think my soul is extremely creative soul. And that's just my soul, and I'll probably be a good painter and decorator. I would hate doing that, and I think sometimes it's you've got to ask the question of people. It's painters and decorators, you might be a really good one because you got the skills to do it, but is that what your soul really wants to do? If that makes sense.
Right.
See where I'm coming from? So me, I've used my creative skills to be a web developer. And it served me all right. I'm good at it. I can earn a lot of money from it. But my soul is getting to a point now where it's a bit fed up of it. And it's trying to figure out new creative ways to kind of live differently. And I think for me, for whatever reason, I'm really interested in being sovereign from the land, if that makes sense. That really interests me. I know that I can grow my food for free. I know that I can go and hunt my food for free. I know that I can go and fish for free, get clothes for free. For me, I'm really interested in that. I don't know what it is about it. I think it does have a certain truth to it, because I feel like God created a world that you can do that sort of stuff. You understand? Does that make sense? There's a lot of truth in it. Our brains are hardwired to want to see this kind of complex imagery that nature creates. I think we try and find that need through video games and YouTube and stuff like that. There's a lot of truth in you talk about grounding. Naturally we would have been outside walking barefoot. Naturally we would have been outside in the sun. Naturally we would have been outside collecting water and hunting down animals. For me, I find there's a lot of truth in that, of being sovereign from the land. It gives me a lot of comfort in knowing that actually, I probably don't really need supermarkets too much anymore if I really needed to, or I don't need money necessarily. I understand money is important, but if I was to earn a lot of money, what I would probably do was buy land. Because then I've actually bought land for my kids and my kids' kids and my kids' kids' kids, because then they can actually use that land and be sovereign on that land. And I find that there's a lot of beauty in that and a lot of truth. But that's just my soul. That's what it loves to do at the moment.
Right.
And you can't ignore what the soul wants, because you'll just get annoyed. You just have to keep going back to it over and over again. Because if it wants to do something, you've got to kind of follow that.
Yeah. I'll have a farm at some point. There's cool things that you can do here in there's cool programs where so there's a lot of cool farming entrepreneurs. If you guys want to see some cool farming entrepreneurs on YouTube, you guys should check out Curtis Stone. He's a cool one. But what he does is how he actually started his business is he didn't have land. And what he did was he went to people with land, and he was like, hey, you have all this land, it's not being used, I'll farm it for you, and then you'll get a share of the profits. And then so I think it'd be cool to have a farm. And I don't know if I want to be like a full-time farmer or anything like that, but it'd be cool to at least have a farm and then have someone work the farm, and then they get most of the profits, and then I at least, I get some profits. You know what I mean? Because it's my land, but they're doing most of the work. You know what I mean? I think that's a very cool sort
Oh,
of
you don't even
concept.
need a farm.
Putting land to use.
I mean, the thing is, if you've got a farm, I mean, there's so much benefit and beauty from growing your own food. People see it as a trivial thing, but you're actually working with life forms, life forces. You're seeing the development, you're forming connections, you're sending love. People don't realize that it's not as trivial as just going out and catching a fish. Like, you're actually having a very intimate connection with an animal that you're going to hunt down for food or whatever. Like, the connection of the natural cycle of life is just so intertwined into our DNA that people don't realize how much depth that has. So you don't even need a farm. You just need a big garden that you can manage yourself. I mean, if you just think about your family and your kids, and maybe you could cultivate that, and you're not going to be spending all day doing it, and then maybe you could have a farm on top of that.
Right.
But maybe, like, for me, I would probably prefer, like, just something that I can, as long as I can look after myself and my family and my kids, that's cool. I don't need to worry about having big farms, and really all you need for that is maybe an acre or something.
Yeah.
All you need is an acre of land, fill it with vegetables, a few chickens, and then if you're in a cool area, you can go out and hunt your own food. So instead of creating a big farm. But I see where you're coming from. I think this is another problem with agriculture. It's fucking boring. It's nice, it's good, but it's really boring. It's so nice to go out and forage your own food and be wild. So for me, I wouldn't want to have a big agricultural thing. But I realised that you cannot, especially doing a nutrition balancing program, you can't go out and find your own food. It's impossible. One, it's just not out there. Two, you need a tribal community to do that. So for me, I've had to come to the decision that I've got to grow my own food a little bit. But things like animals and stuff, I can go out and hunt them myself, which is cool.
Right.
That's the plan.
Yeah, and then going back to economics, for me, I think it's like a soul thing too. I always had a certain understanding of economics, and I've enjoyed it. Like when I was younger, even before nutritional balancing and stuff, I was really good at Monopoly. You know what I mean? Like, my cousins would never want to play Monopoly with me.
Apparently, everyone gets a little mission, don't they? If everyone thought the same, the world would go to shit.
What's that?
Like I said, I think everyone's got a little bit of a mission. Everyone's got a task. I'm super, super glad that you're really into economics and stuff, because you wouldn't have really pushed the Bitcoin thing on me as much as the cryptocurrency on me as much as you would have done.
Right.
And hopefully the way that I live with some of my skills and knowledge has hopefully had some influence on you. And that's how the world works, is that I'm not worried about the Pizzagate stuff as much, for example, because I know that people are doing that and they're dealing with that. Do you understand what I mean? And there's people getting involved. I'm not so much worried about, I've got my own kind of, I'm an EMF expert and a derealization expert and a brain fed expert, and someone who understands the intrinsic importance of reconnecting with nature. So that's my little thing that I can give to the world. Do you know what I mean? And I found that really fascinating, how everyone just has got their own kind of little niche, is doing their own little bit for the world. And I think it's super important to really feel into that aspect of yourself, because you've done a lot of research and stuff about cryptocurrency. I don't have time to do all that. And you've drip feeded me the important stuff. And it's like, right, sweet. And I don't have to worry about that aspect anymore, if that makes sense. It's the same with many different things. Dr. Wilson, for example, with his hair analysis stuff. I mean, he's gone so deep that you've just cherry picked, and then you just cultivate, and then hopefully I can give to the world, like my knowledge on how to overcome EMF or how to overcome derealization, or visual snare was a big one for me. Do you know what I mean? Right. I've got a flatmate who's he used to stammer, it's like a stutter, and he's overcome that, and that's his thing. Like, he can help people overcome that, and I think that's beautiful. you know. So it's really important, I think, to think like that and to just honor your own skills and what you want to really do. And I think it's just a big part of becoming your true authentic self and, you know, living the life that you want to live. And it takes a lot of courage really to step outside the box and say, hold on a minute, I don't want to live like this. I remember in my early 20s when I felt society was pushing me towards this career, and I was like, man, is this what life's all about? I'm really not into this sort of stuff. But it was such a big pull. You need to get a job. You need to get a 9 to 5. You need to get a career. And I'm like, whoa, man, I could just feel the life getting sucked out of me. You know, now 7 years later, I look back at myself and I'm like, I'm so proud that I actually took a stance and was like, I'm going to question this. And, you know, I set up my own business and, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my most proud moments was when I started nutritional balancing and I was going to college. And then I just realized, like, college is like, this is like all bullshit. And I was just like, I just quit college because, you know, I thought that I wanted to be a doctor or like be a nurse or like, you know, doing all this pre-med stuff. And then just realizing that, like, I was just learning so much like pointless stuff, and like just the energy of like the teachers, they're just so arrogant. Like some of the teachers are so arrogant, and just the false information you get force fed in college. You know what I mean? I just felt this wave of energy as I just like, you know, I just dropped all my classes and I was like, you know, I'm not going to go into debt for all this. So I'm not going to just learn all this BS just to get a degree and go. And like I said, like a big thing was just how much expensive it was and the debt and everything. And I was just like, you know what? No, I'm just going to, you know, you can all go over here. I'm just going to go over here.
What did you study?
Well, I got a 2-year degree in psychology, and then I was doing pre-med classes. So when I quit, I was doing like physics, and I was taking like chemistry classes. I took organic. I was taking like organic chemistry and like anatomy. I was taking like pre-med.
Anyway, bruv, I'm gonna have to shoot soon, so I think we should probably try and get through these questions.
That's actually one thing that really annoys me is like I get a lot of flack from like young liberal people my age saying like I'm anti-science and stuff, and like these are people that like went to school for like English degrees and stuff and like have never taken a science class. I'm like, dude, I took pre-med. Like I've read scientific studies. I understand way more about like science than you do. What I'm talking about. All right, Brant, I'm gonna rant about that.
Yeah, I don't know why people say that you're not interested in science. I mean, clearly are. Ooh.
Yeah.
We're gone.
Mercury's in retrograde. I don't really know what Mercury in retrograde means. People talk about it. I don't know how much there is to it.
Yeah, I think it's part. I think there's. I think astrology and planets. They've all got some weight to it, but it's kind of subtle stuff. A little, not subtle stuff. It's very, very difficult to find people that I can actually trust when they, you know, with the horoscopes and planetary alignments and stuff. Like I've never found the Dr. Wilson of astrology yet. You know, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I don't really worry about it too much.
Yeah, I don't really worry. You know, if Mercury's in retrograde, I ain't tripping.
Never mind. Are we going to the moon? Let's answer that in another podcast. I've not got time to answer that one. Maybe ask the astrology guy that question.
Yeah. Are we going to the moon? Yes, we are. Do you feel breaking up from a relationship that was incredibly strong will halt healing? Well,
why would you break up with a relationship if it's incredibly strong? That would be my first question.
Yeah, well, Grant, I don't really know you personally. I don't know how, like, sometimes, you know, your perception of it, the truth can be different than your perception. You know, you might think, so you may be feeling at this time that it was incredibly strong relationship and she was your soulmate and you were meant to be together for the rest of your life, but that might not necessarily be the truth. So you have to ask You have to try to come to some sort of understanding. Is that the truth, or are you just telling yourself that's the truth because it makes you feel better about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, the breakup, I felt like my soulmate. Truly, I know this is a big statement meant. What do you think about that, Lewis?
I don't know. I thought I met my soulmate a few years back. I think she was probably a soul sister. I still have a connection to her on one level. I'll speak about it in the in one of my previous videos. From my experience with relationships, is that if you're ill, pretty ill, and I know this guy is because he's one of my clients, I personally would find it difficult to heal in a relationship as much as I have healed. If that makes sense. For the first 4 years of me healing, a relationship wasn't even on my radar. You know, so when I got into a relationship, I was still pretty ill, I would say, but I'd come so far, 4 years, that I was just like, oh man, if you know, now I could at least think about a relationship. There's that need, there's that kind of loss that you've felt for so many years that you just want to get into something. So I did, but I got into it really not knowing how relationships should be or how I should interact, or not knowing the true dynamic of male and female, like, you know, Adam and Eve. Like, I didn't understand that. So it kind of slowed down my healing a little bit. Well, definitely slowed down my healing because, you know, I was losing fluid, you know, I was stressed out, I was running around too much. But I rapidly, like, over the next 3 years, I learned so much about relationships now that I, like, you know, I tend to give advice on relationships, and people are quite astounded at the knowledge that I have on relationships. It's a little bit like starting the nutrition balancing program from day one. For the first 3 years, I was just constantly figuring out how the program works, and now it's the second nature a little bit. And for the past 3 or 4 years, I've been in a relationship too, and it's got to a point where I'm really kind of, you know, I've got a good idea of how a good, healthy balance between a man and woman should be. So I'm more prepared now for that. But yeah, it's when you're really ill, it's difficult, man, because you need a lot of time to heal and a lot of reflection and a lot of trauma release and a lot of toxins. And if I was in a relationship from day one, I'm pretty certain that I would never have got through it, you know. And even the sexual fluid loss. I mean, if you're ill and you're losing fluid, more than twice a month, you're going to struggle. You'll struggle. Simple as that. If you're a little bit healthier, like I am now, or like Luke is, it's not that much of an issue. But still, you don't want to be losing your fluid 2-3 times a week. Like, it's not good. It just feels really bad. So I know it's a difficult one to answer because everyone wants to be in a relationship, but unfortunately, it's not our fault. It's not your fault. It's not Dr. Wilson's fault that everyone's so damn sick. That, you know, it's not what nature intended us to be this bloody sick. It didn't intend us to be this sick. So now it is a burden. You know, sometimes being in a relationship can be a burden, even though the person's beautiful and a soulmate and you have this amazing connection. The truth of the matter is, if you're incredibly sick and toxic, you know, being in a relationship is a bigger energy expenditure. I mean, there's enough expenditure out of it actually having a conversation with someone being single, if that makes sense. Like me and you having a conversation now, some people that sick can't even do that, you know. Right. And I'm not in a relationship. There's no pressure whatsoever. You know, I can pretty much say what I want. You know, you're not going to start moaning at me to go and clean the bathroom because I haven't done it, if that makes sense. Right. See where I'm coming from? And like, yeah. So that's my kind of take on it. I know that you're coming from a different angle because I think you're a little bit more healthier, especially than this guy in the beginning. So right. Yeah, it's a hard one to swallow. It's not Dr. Wilson's fault. It's no one's fault that we're so ill, but right. It can slow you down, even though the person might be a really, really beautiful soul.
And even if, like, even though you feel a connection with her, doesn't mean she's the one that you're supposed to be with. Like what Luce is describing, like he has an ex that he still has a connection with and is like a soul sister. That could be a situation with you too, where it's like that was part of your path and you learned some things together, and she's still like she can still be your friend and a soul sister, but she's not necessarily the woman that you're supposed to be with. And I went through this with an ex that I still feel energetically a connection with. Like things I experienced things with her that that were like taught me a lot of things about like a lot of esoteric things because of the things that I saw through her and the things that she went through and the things that I helped her go through. You know what I mean? Like really like profound experiences that would have scared a lot of people. Like Lewis, like, you know, I've shared some of the stuff. You know, Lewis kind of knows what I'm talking about, but but it helped me learn a lot. You know.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm the same. I mean, you know, one of my ex-girlfriends, we're still friends now, and she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. Like, honestly, and I do really think if I'm soulmates with anyone, it probably would have been her. I mean, what I had with her, the connection was beyond. But now I can stake it. I know that we wouldn't be right for each other.
Right.
You know, she has a different religious view to me, which is a problem. You know, she lives in a, you know, thousands and thousands of miles away in a different country. Like, it's just not. Sometimes it's just not meant to be. And I learned so much, and it's super nice, and it's made me realize what I would probably want in the future. And sometimes you just got to take it for what it is and realize that it's so easy to fall into the trap of, oh my God, I'm not going to find anyone as good or better, you know, and it keeps you kind of stuck. It keeps you kind of stuck in the past. When in reality, one, you shouldn't think like that, because you should just be focusing on yourself, really, and your own self-love. And I know that's difficult to say, because when you're feeling lonely and, you know, you're feeling sick, you kind of just want that person back because it just makes you feel loved.
Yeah,
but
I would encourage
there's amazing people out there. Like, God will put you into when you cannot be put into contact with amazing people unless your energy is amazing. It just doesn't work. You're not compatible. You know, so you've got to raise your energy and purify yourself, and that's when you can vibrate at a level where you're going to connect with these really high frequency people, or people that are more suited to you.
Another thing that's important to realize is, like, maybe you are supposed to be with this woman. Let's say that, you know, for argument's sake, that you are. You know, you don't have to push her out of her life. You can explain to her, like, that you're healing. You can still be friends with her. There's no reason to push her out of your life. You can explain to her that, you know, you can share the program with her too. You know, if she's interested in it, you know, I would hope that she is. And you can share with her what you're doing, and she can still be part of your life. And then, as you heal, if you two are meant to be each other, then naturally it will happen.
For sure. Sorry, I'm just having a look through these questions. Yeah, it's an interesting one, relationships. I mean, read Dr. Wilson's articles. They sounded really weird to me when I first read them, but now they make total sense.
Right.
You know, especially the dating article is a good one. The marriage article is super good. I mean, I've got some videos on relationships in the members area on the website. They're pretty cool. It's something I'm getting more into. I'm not really comfortable putting it on the channel yet, to be honest. Check out Joel Salatin's material. Great for farming and healing the earth.
Yeah, Joe Salatin's great. Joe Salatin and then Curtis Stone are probably the two of the best.
When I hear you guys talk about your past when you were ill, I don't understand how you could have the ability to go. Well, I didn't. I was only at university for about. Yeah, I left when I finished university. I went to Thailand. I didn't really have. It was different. Well, it was a weird one for me because I did have energy, but I was feeling incredibly shit. But I only had energy because I was in like a chronic fight or flight response. You know, and as soon as I started the program, that's when things got extreme because I was so tired. And that's what people need to realize. Like, it can really put you off. I think that's pretty much it, which is good because I'm going to have to shoot.
Okay.
You could stay on for a bit if you want and answer my questions, but.
All right. Well, it's nice chatting with you. It was nice chatting with you guys. We'll try to do this a week or two from now again on maybe on another Saturday. We usually tend to do these on Saturday mornings, it seems, because that's when I'm free. And then
Yeah.
So Saturday morning seems.
Maybe we should try and schedule it for every Saturday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, I'd be down for that for sure.
We'll try.
Yeah, that'd be good for sure. But yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a little more free form, but it was good still. There's a lot of good information I think that we shared with you guys, and
I think we need a Pizzagate video soon.
Yeah, I'll probably make. I'll probably make like a Pizzagate sort of thing. It's scary stuff, but it's important. It is important that you guys understand the truth, because the truth is still the truth. The truth will set you free, even if the truth scares you, even if it's terrifying, even if it's horrible and horrific. I mean, it's important. Like, you don't need to like envelop yourself with it and become obsessed with it. Because I actually experienced that with myself. Is that you can use it as a stimulant. You know, if you're reading these sort of like horrific things, and then it affects you energetically to a certain point, and to a certain point, you can become a stimulant. It's like when people watch a lot of horror movies. You know what I mean? Like the Fight or Flight. It's like like, you know what I mean? And it's partially that. It's also just but yeah, you don't want to dwell on it too much. But I do think it is important that you're aware of the truth, because your awareness of the truth brings healing to Earth just by you being aware of the truth. You know, just by you learning the truth, that brings awareness to the subject matter.
It grounds you. It grounds you because it stops doubting. And this is one of the biggest problems people have today, is because there's so much confusion and stuff going around. People don't live by the truth. They don't have rules anymore. And they doubt everything. They don't understand anything. So it just totally ungrounds you. So this is why it's important to learn the truth sometimes, even though the truth isn't nice. You know, like, you're really into the Pizzagate stuff, and it's on my radar. I know it's not a nice thing, but I know it's the truth. And in a way, it makes me feel more grounded and safe, because that's the truth, you know. And as you heal on the program, you're able to pick up truth super quick. You know, as soon as someone writes a post, or you see an image, or you see some text or anything, you know, you just know intuitively whether it's the truth or not. It's super interesting.
Yeah, and that's a shortcut to life, you guys. Is if you do the pushing down exercise and you develop, the truth is a frequency. And you literally just train your brain. Your brain starts picking up the truth frequency more. And it cuts out a lot of decision making. Because it's like you see the text or the article or the video, or you're in contact with a certain person, and you just know that you scan it, and then you realize that it's truth. And that's all that you need to know. That's all you need to know. You don't need to try to quantify it or try to go through some rationale. And so, it's a very key shortcut to life that will help you tremendously, you know. And the best way to do that is you need to do the pushing down exercise every day, along with the program. You know, you do the pushing down.
Cool.
Exercise.
All right, man. I got to shoot. Until next time.
All right, love you guys. We'll see you next Saturday, hopefully.
See you in a bit.
All right.